Hello and welcome. Today we are going to revise Integrated Science Paper 1. And I hope that you are going to understand something, because we are not just going to be answering the questions but also exploring why others are not the options. So stay tuned and I hope that you get to learn. Question 1. A tailor is measuring the length of fabric to cut a dress. Which SI unit is appropriate for this measurement? Now, for this question, we want to know the SI unit that is appropriate for measuring a dress. And we have option A, kilogram. Now, a kilogram measures mass, so that is not the correct answer. Then option B, we have second. A second is definitely not correct because that is a measure of time. Then option D, we have liter. Liter is not correct because that measures volume. So the correct option is C, because meter is the SI unit for measuring length. And when we are measuring a dress or fabric, we are measuring the length. Then question number 2. While working in the laboratory, a student handled apparatus known as a conical flask. Which one of the following is a conical flask? Now, for this question, we are given some images there. You see 4 of them, and we are asked to identify a conical flask. Now, in this case, a conical flask is option B. Why? Because a conical flask has a flat base, number 1, and then it has sloping sides and a narrow neck, just like B. Now, the other options, option A is a beaker. Then option B is called a separating funnel, and option D is called a barrette. So, all the others are not correct. And for you to remember this question is very common. Always remember that a conical flask is cone-shaped. It looks like a cone. So it has a flat base and it has the sides. Now let us go to question number 3. Question 3 says, a technician is troubleshooting a faulty electrical appliance. He finds that the circuit is incomplete, preventing the flow of current. This is referred to as, so this is a very good question. It is a technician who is troubleshooting and he wants to determine what kind of trouble he has encountered. Now for this case, the trouble that he has encountered, because the circuit is incomplete. When we have an incomplete circuit, we call that an open circuit. Why? An open circuit has a break, so electric current cannot flow. Let us look at the other option. Option A, a closed circuit. A closed circuit is one that is complete. And then a short circuit is the one that provides an unintended low resistance path. So if there is low resistance, that we would call it a short circuit. And then option D, a parallel circuit is the one that has several paths. So that is not the correct option. And the correct option is an open circuit. Then question 4. During a science fair, a learner demonstrated that when purple cabbage juice is added to a solution, it turns green. This indicates that the solution is, now, here, let us start with option A, acidic. As acid usually turn red or pink, they will turn red or pink when they are mixed with this solution. And then neutral solutions remain purple. So if the solution was neutral, it would have remained purple. And then if it is a solid is not an acidic base classification. So that one is not even supposed to be to have a reaction. But what about a basic reaction? A basic reaction is the correct option. Why? Because purple cabbage indicator turns green in a basic or an alkaline solution. So the correct option there is C. And then if the question is twisted and they say that the color turned red or pink, you'll know that that was an acidic solution. If they say that the color remained the same, you'll know that that was a neutral solution. Now let us go to question number 5. And question 5 says, a gardener has a mixture of small stones and dry leaves in his compost pit. Which method would be best to separate the stones from the leaves? Now, look here. What do we have? We have small stones and we have dry leaves. And then we want to separate them. Which method should we use? First of all, let us look at evaporation. Evaporation removes a liquid. So if maybe we have water and a solid, we are going to use evaporation. So that is not the correct option because we don't have a liquid. And then decantation is used to separate using careful pouring. You see? So that is not correct because that is we also need a liquid. And then filtration is used to separate an insoluble solid from a liquid. So filtration is not the correct option. But what about winnowing? Winnowing is the correct option, option C. Why? Because we have stones and we have dry leaves. When you start winnowing, when you winnow, that means that the leaves will be blown away by the wind. So winnowing is the correct option in question 5. Then we go to question 6. A charged toy car uses small magnets to hold its parts together. This is an application of the property of magnet to. So this is a question about magnets. Again, a very good question. First of all, the correct answer there is that a magnet used to attract specific materials. The correct option is B. Why? Because magnets attract magnetic materials such as iron, nickel, or cobalt. So here they are using magnet to attract specific materials. Now the other options are not correct because, for example, magnets do not produce heat, because A says generate heat, but magnets do not normally produce heat. And then to conduct electricity or to produce light, the other options, magnets do not conduct electricity and magnets do not produce light. So the only correct option here is option B. And then let us go to question number 7. Number 7 says, a chef prepares a salad by cutting vegetables into smaller pieces. This action changes the appearance of the vegetables but does not create new substances. This is an example of wow. So here, number 1, this is a physical change. Question C. Why is it called a physical change? It is because cutting changes only size and appearance, but no new substances are produced. That is why it is called a physical change. Now let us look at the other options. Number 1, a chemical change. A chemical change is the one that produces a new substance, you see, and it is irreversible, and it is also, you see, when you take two products and then you mix them and then there is a chemical reaction, that is what you call a chemical change. But when you are just cutting vegetables, it just means you are changing the size and the appearance, but there is nothing new that has been added. So that is why it is a physical change. Now, a permanent and a reversible change do not correctly describe this change, because a permanent change means that it was changed permanently and it cannot be reversed for the irreversibles, which is not correct for this option. Now, question number 8. A doctor explains that excessive sugar intake can draw water out of body cells, leading to dehydration. This movement of water across cell membranes is primarily due to okay, very good question here, question 8. So we have option A, diffusion, option B, active transport, option C, osmosis, and option D, phagocytosis. Now, for this question, the correct answer is osmosis. Why? Because osmosis is the movement of water through a partially permeable membrane. You see, like when there is movement of water in cells, there is a semi-permeable membrane, so that is why water is moving. So the correct option is C. And let us look at the other options. Diffusion involves particles generally, you see, and then active transport requires energy. And then phagocytosis involves a cell engulfing large particles. So the others are not correct. And then let us go to question number 9. While observing a prepared slide, a student notices a cell containing a nucleus, cytoplasm, and a cell membrane, but no cell wall or chloroplast. The cell is most likely to be. Now, here we have a cell, and a student has observed several things: a nucleus, a cytoplasm, a cell membrane, but there was no cell wall. Now, that is an animal cell, option A. Why? Because animal cells have a nucleus, they have a cytoplasm and cell membranes, but they do not have a cell wall. They also do not have chloroplasts. You see? Now, a plant cell does have a cell wall and it also have chloroplast. Fungal cells usually also have a cell wall. Bacterial cells do not have a true nucleus. So when you hear that there is a nucleus, then that is not a bacterial cell, you see. So for you to remember this, you should always remember that animal cells have no cell walls and they do not have chloroplasts. Now let us go to question number 10. A small turbine installed in a nearby river to generate electricity is an example of which type of energy source? So, we have a small turbine installed in a river to generate electricity. Now, that is called a hydroelectric. Hydroelectric, which is option D. Why is it hydroelectric power? Because hydroelectric power uses moving or falling water to generate electricity. So when you see a question saying that there is any water involved or any movement involved, that is hydroelectric power. That is the correct option. And then let us look at the others. It is renewable, not a fossil fuel, remember. Also, geothermal energy comes from heat inside the earth, so it is not geothermal energy. Always remember that hydro means water, so when you see hydro, most likely it is associated with water. Let us go to question 11. A jeweler uses a powerful magnifying glass to inspect intricate details of tiny gemstones. This tool works on the same principle as the lens in a... Wow. So, question 11 is about a magnifying glass. First of all, we have to get something here. And one thing I want us to understand is that this jeweler is using a magnifying glass to inspect intricate details of tiny gemstones. So the gemstones are very tiny. First of all, they are tiny and they want to inspect intricate details. If you want to look at the details and the object that you have is already tiny, here you have to use a microscope. Why? Because a magnifying glass and a sample microscope both use a convex lens to enlarge nearby objects, you see? And for the other option, a telescope and binoculars view distant objects, you see? And cameras mainly form images for recording. So telescope and binoculars cannot be correct because that one is used to help view an object when it is in a distance. And a camera will help you to record images or maybe videos. Then let us go to question number 12. During a fire safety lesson, learners learned that removing one component helps to put out fire. Spraying carbon dioxide removes. Oh, so for this question, we want to spray. They are trying to spray carbon dioxide. Why is carbon dioxide sprayed around fire? First of all, it is sprayed to reduce oxygen supply. That is why we use carbon dioxide. You see, so here definitely the correct option for question 12 is the oxygen. Why? Because carbon dioxide surrounds the fire and reduces its oxygen supply. That is why question number 12, the correct option is D, that we are trying to reduce oxygen. Now, the others do not directly remove the fuel or ignition source, and its main action is not cooling, you see. So, for you to remember this, always remember that a fire triangle involves fuel, heat, and oxygen. So when you introduce carbon dioxide and you reduce the flow of oxygen, because fire needs oxygen to burn, that means that the fire is going to go down because the supply of oxygen has been reduced. Let us go to question number 13. The movement of water into plant cells against the concentration gradient is a vital process involving... Now, this involves osmosis, and we have talked about osmosis again, that water enters into plant cells through a partially permeable cell membrane by osmosis. So when water is moving through a partially permeable cell membrane, that is called osmosis. The others are not correct because evaporation changes water into vapor, photosynthesis produces food, and diffusion is the general movement of particles. You see, water across a membrane is called osmosis when water is moving across a membrane. Let us go to question number 14. It says, to obtain a luminous yellow flame suitable for gentle heating, which part of the Bunsen burner should be adjusted? And here we have the Bunsen burner. We have parts A, B, C, D, and E and F. Now, you see, what you should know is that the air hole is supposed to be closed because we are trying to obtain a luminous yellow flame suitable for gentle heating. So you are supposed to close the air hole. And which is the air hole? The air hole is B. That is what we should close, and the correct option is B. The air hole should be closed. Why? Because closing the air hole will reduce oxygen and produce a luminous yellow flame. So when we have said that fire needs oxygen to burn, so when you reduce the flow of oxygen, that means that fire is not going to burn. And or when the oxygen is less, fire is going to burn less. That is why we are closing the air hole. Now the other options are not correct because the gas tap controls gas supply, the barrel is not shortened, and rotating the base is not the correct adjustment. You see, air closed helps to produce a yellow flame and air open helps to produce a blue flame. Always remember that when it comes to Bunsen burner. Let us now go to question number 15. It says that during a science trip, a learner accidentally gets a splinter in the finger. What should be the immediate first action? Wow. So here we have a learner, and what happens to this learner is that they have a splinter in the finger. So we are supposed to identify the immediate first aid action because there are many things we are going to do to this learner, but which is the first one? The first one, we have option A, try to squeeze out forcefully. That is not correct because forcefully squeezing may push it deeper and make it worse. Then option B, leave it to come out on its own. Now, remember that leaving it may cause an infection, so it should not be left out. Then, another option, covering it with plaster, option D, covering it with plaster. Now, covering it without removal does not solve the problem because that means the splinter is still there. But option C, washing the area gently and removing it with sterile tweezers. That is the correct option. Why? Because cleaning reduces infection risk, and sterile tweezers will safely remove the splinter. So the correct option is C. Then let us go to section B. We are done with section A, which is a multiple choice questions part. Now we are going to section B, which requires you to give answers from your own mind. You are supposed to think the answer and then write it down. Now, so we are going to continue question 16. And question 16 we have A1 and 2. And yes, so we are going to start with question 16A. A farmer observes that the soil in his farm is too acidic, affecting plant growth. He decides to apply lime to the soil. So option 1, question 1, what is the chemical nature of lime? Now, I'm going to explain this question. I'm going to explain it. Now, lime is a basic solution or an alkaline. So it may contain calcium oxide or calcium hydroxide. You see, that is the chemical nature of lime, is that it is a basic or an alkaline, and therefore it can contain calcium oxide or calcium hydroxide. Then question 1, 2. Explain how applying lime helps improve the soil for plant growth. Now here, remember that lime neutralizes excess acid and raises the soil pH, making nutrients more available to plants. You see, that is why we are applying lime. It is going to help improve the soil because it is going to lower the acidic nature of the soil. Question 16b. During a titration experiment, a student uses phenolphthalein indicator. Describe the color change observed when phenolphthalein is added to an acidic solution. Now for this question, a phenolphthalein is an acidic solution. So it remains colorless in an acidic solution. That is the correct way to explain it, that it is going to remain colorless when it is added to an acidic solution. Why? Because it is an acidic solution on itself. Then let us go to question number 17. It says, state one major challenge faced by adolescents during puberty related to emotional changes. Now, there are many emotional challenges that adolescents may face, and one of them, for example, is mood swings, which is caused by hormonal and physical changes. Other answers you can give include anxiety, we have low self-esteem, stress, or irritability. So as long as you explain any of them correctly, that should be a correct emotional challenge for adolescents. And then question B, 17b, explain 2 ways in which good personal hygiene can help manage challenges during adolescence. So, 2 benefits of good hygiene. Now, regular bathing will help to remove sweat and bacteria. So when you bathe regularly and remove sweat and bacteria, in turn, you are going to prevent skin infections and also prevent bad smell from your body. Then another benefit is that wearing clean clothes and maintaining oral and genital hygiene will help to reduce infections and discomfort. So there are many benefits. You can talk about the benefit of wearing clean clothes, the benefit of maintaining good oral hygiene, the benefits of ensuring you bathe regularly, all those, and then explain why it is beneficial. Then question number 18. A patient experiences swelling in the ankles and feet, and the doctor suspects a kidney problem. A. Name the main excretory product filtered by the kidneys from the blood. Now, the main excretory product that is removed by the kidney is urea. Urea is produced when excess amino acids are broken down in the liver, and then this urea is excreted through the kidneys. Then question B. So we are in 18B. Besides swelling, state 2 other common symptoms of kidney disorders. When there is kidney disorders, one can also experience reduced or unusually frequent urination, and also they may notice blood in the urine. You see, other things include fatigue. Fatigue is also a symptom. There could be nausea because of the infections, high blood pressure even, and even lower back pain. Lower back pain is also very common when there is kidney infections. Yeah, so all those are correct things that you can explain in your answer. And then question 18C. Explain the function of the glomerulus in the human kidney. Now, the glomerulus filters blood under pressure, allowing water, salts, glucose, and urea to enter Bowman's capsule. You see, blood cells and large proteins remain in the blood. So always remember that glomerulus is for filtering blood filtration. And by blood filtration, it is now going to allow water, salts, glucose, urea to enter the Bowman's capsule. Then question number 19. A student is setting up a circuit to light a bulb using battery and wires. A. Name the form of energy stored in a battery. Now, the energy stored in a battery is called chemical energy. And this chemical energy is converted into electrical energy when the circuit is complete. So we have chemical energy, and you just need to complete the circuit to convert it into electrical energy. Then question 19B. We are now in question 19B. Draw a simple circuit diagram showing a battery, a switch, and a light bulb connected in a series. So for this question, I'm going to draw, and I'm going to show you my drawing. So look at this paper. This is what I drew, and this shows this is a diagram showing a simple circuit of a battery, a switch, and a light bulb, which are connected in a series. Question 20. A child is playing with toy cars that have small magnets embedded in their wheels. And then A. Name 2 materials that are strongly attracted by magnets. That is a very easy question because you are just supposed to name 2. I'm going to give you 3. We have iron, we have nickel, and we have cobalt. So cobalt is also acceptable, and any of those 2 should be acceptable. And then state 2 common properties of magnets. 2 properties of magnets. Like poles repel, while unlike poles attract. Another one, magnet attracts magnet materials such as iron. And then you can also say other properties like magnet force is strongest at the poles, you see. So any of the characteristics of magnets, and those are some of them. Then describe 2 applications of magnets in everyday life other than toys and scrapyards. So what do we use magnets for? Now this is not a hard question. This is very easy because refrigerator doors, for example, use magnets to hold door tightly closed. You see. Also compasses. For compasses, a magnetic needle points north. You see, north, south for direction. So we need magnets in everyday applications. And one of the everyday appliances is a refrigerator. We also need compasses, and all these use magnets. You know, we have other examples like loudspeakers, they use magnets. We have electric motors. We have a magnetic door locks. See, So we have very many areas in which magnets are used, and you can say any of them. It should be correct as long as magnets are used. Then number 20D, explain the difference between a temporary magnet and a permanent magnet. Now, a temporary magnet loses its magnetism quickly after magnetizing force is removed, but a permanent magnet retains its magnetism for a long time. That is the difference. So remember that a temporary one is going to quickly remove its magnetism. You see, it will lose its magnetism quickly after the magnetizing force is removed. But a permanent one, it is going to retain its magnetism for a long time. That is the difference. Then question number 21. It says, study the diagram of a plant leaf and answer the questions that follow. Now, we have parts of a leaf. And part A, we are supposed to identify the parts marked R, S, and T respectively. Part R is the petiole or the leaf stalk. That is the leaf stalk or the petiole. Then part S is the vein. That's called a vein. Then part T is the lamina or the leaf blade. You can call it a leaf blade or a lamina. Both of those are correct. Then number 21B, state the function of each vascular bundle. So number one we have phloem. A phloem transports manufactured food, mainly sugars, from the leaves to other parts of the plant. That is what a phloem does. And then we have 2, xylem. Now, what is the function of a xylem? Xylem is used to transport water and mineral salts from the roots to the leaves and to other parts of the plant. So the xylem and phloem, they have different functions, because a phloem is transporting food from the leaves to other parts of the plant, but a xylem is transporting water and mineral salts from where? From the roots to all the other parts of the plant, including the leaves. Now, let us go to question number 22. This is the last question. In an investigation to identify conditions necessary for rusting, grade 9 learners set up the experiment below. Now you can see the experiment there. We have iron nail dipped in water. We have another tube which has an iron nail and anhydrous calcium chloride, and we have that tube with the rubber cork, so it is closed. Then we have the third one which has oil, an iron nail, and boiled water. Now, question A says, in which test tube did the rusting of the nail take place? Now, remember that the nail had access to both water and oxygen, which are required for rusting in test tube A. Why? Because there is water and there is oxygen. You see? So the nail has access to both water and oxygen. And when iron is exposed to water and oxygen, rusting takes place. That is why test tube A is the correct option. And then B, state the reason for boiling water in test tube C. Why are we boiling water in test tube C? And now question 20B, it says that state the reason for boiling water in test tube C. Now, boiling water removes dissolved oxygen from the water. Now, the oil layer prevents oxygen from entering again. So we are first boiling water to remove any dissolved oxygen, and then we are putting the oil layer to prevent oxygen from entering again into the water, and therefore that nail is not going to rust because there is water but there is no oxygen. And then question 20C, which method of preventing rusting involves coating iron with a layer of zinc? That is called galvanizing. In galvanizing, the zinc layer prevents water and oxygen from reaching the iron. So when you see iron which has a layer of zinc, that is called galvanizing, and that means that that tool is not going to rust because it has been galvanized with a zinc layer. And then question 20D, state the physical property of metals that is useful in making jewelry and ornaments. So in this question, we are supposed to talk about property useful in making jewelry, and that is called luster. Lustre. Now in this process of luster, metals are shiny and attractive, making them suitable for jewelry and ornaments. So here when we are making jewelry and ornaments, we want those metals to look shiny. So that is why we call it luster, and then when they are shiny and attractive, they are suitable for making jewelry and ornaments. And with that, we are done with this paper, integrated science paper 1, and next one I'm going to post integrated science paper 2. So thank you for watching this video. I hope that you learned. We are going to continue learning. We will have more papers. Check out for paper 2 because we are going to have it in detailed answers. Thank you so much for watching, and stay blessed and keep learning. Bye.